That means I'm mute.
James, did I give you the correct permission?
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thanks, appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, I will call us to order at 7:01. First up is commendations. Anybody have some commendations?
I have one, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Just real quick. I just wanted to give recognition to Amanda Rivers because she has really taken the pool testing program and run with it. I think she's done an amazing job in a very, very short period of time to not only get herself up to speed, but get everything organized so that we can implement this in Marblehead. And I just think she's done a phenomenal job. So thank you, Amanda.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any commendations? I was just trying to look back and remember. I don't think we've met since Urinetown was broadcast or done. And I would like to have a commendation for all of the cast. That it was a lot of fun to watch. It was great that they pulled it off, and just it was an inspiration to watch all the kids just kind of come together and make the best of it and pull off their musical. So, and everyone did an amazing job, including our own Dan Howells, who will be with us in a moment. Any other combinations? Because I've got a couple with arts. All right. There is a public schools National Grand Bank show that the art department has quite a few various students from around the district who have their work displayed over there. And then there was also an additional art, a Scholastic Art and Writing Award and Arts Marblehead High School. Emily, did we get that did that go up onto the website? Oh, awesome. I would encourage everyone to look through that. It's up posted on the school committee website. There's some really amazing art in that file, and then all the names of all the students who have their art over at National Grand Bank is up there as well. So just shout out to it's in the meeting packet information. So just a shout out to all of those kids and the amazing work that they're doing in our district. All right.
Sarah, if
Yeah.
I can just add on to that, the work, the images of the work that from the high school program that we saw were really, really amazing. I was impressed by so many, all of them. And so many of them, especially the photographs, left me wondering how did they execute this? How did they do this?
Okay.
If any of the teachers or anybody from the National Grand Art Show has some images of those students' work, I would love to see them if they get a chance to send them my way or our way. We didn't get images with that, but I would love to get to see what came out of that.
Absolutely. We'd gladly post those in addition. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead, David. Are you unmuted?
David's still on mute and his video's off.
Sorry. I don't think it was intentional by any means, but Greg was covering the success of our various teams, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the ski team. So in the Massachusetts Bay Ski League, the girls finished at the top of the league after a 9-race season. And in the league is Lexington, Wellesley, Newton North, Brooklyn, and Framingham. And additionally, after a 9-race season, the boys also finished in first place in the league. And then there were also they named the All-Stars, the top 10 skiers from those schools are deemed to be All-Stars, and ranked for the boys was Christopher Thompson, who was second, Matthew Thompson, who was fourth, and Charlie Pingree, who was fifth in points. And for the ranking of the girls, the number 1 ranked skier from Marblehead, Samantha McKay. Number 2 was May Caldwell, and number 5 was Sydney Hamilton. So even though it was abbreviated and shortened, it's one of those teams that, they need to get on a school bus on Thursday nights and go train, and then they try and have their races. And it was a difficult winter until the snow finally came, but a good season by the ski team, and John Thompson, of course, as the head coach. So well done by everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. All right. Tonight for our building-based commendations, we have Principal Sean Satterfield, or Dr. Satterfield. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. I promise I'll be brief, but thank you for your time tonight. I'd like to highlight for you in commendation 3 groups of people who've been working hard since the start of the school year. First, our classroom teachers at Coffin have been continually working to plan and develop lessons for students, both remotely and in person. Using our professional development times, they plan as a team weekly to meet student needs. As you know, this has been quite a challenging and most unusual year. I'm pleased to report that our assessment data shows tremendous academic growth by our students over the course of this school year. Our assessment data via AimsWeb shows that our students in first and second grades are at or close to traditional benchmarks for this time of the school year. Our teachers are excited for the March 15th date to bring our students back for 5 days for both academic and social and emotional consistency. And I want to thank you personally for trying to make this happen. Next, I would like to highlight the work done by our counseling staff, our school counselors, Allison Eaton and Allie Carey, as well as our school psychologist, Meg Burns. They have been instrumental in observing, tracking, and supporting our vulnerable populations when needed. They meet weekly together and with classroom teachers to keep lines of communication open in support of our students so that their social and emotional needs are being met. In addition, they quite often reach out to families who may have fallen by the wayside or sometimes have difficulty logging on. This work enables our students to be ready and open for their academic work to be going on in the classrooms. It is indeed vital work in these times. Finally, our special needs teachers, Lindsay O'Hara, Paula Morrison, Janet Bach, Anita Candigliaro, Mary Ann Levine, and our team chair, Meredith Wishart, have been working tirelessly since September, providing 5-day-a-week support for our special needs students. They continue to develop, modify, and refine curriculum for our individual students in order for them to meet success. This work has not stopped since we opened, and I commend them and the other teachers that I mentioned for their hard work and dedication throughout this school year. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sean. And thank you to all of those individuals. It's a great list. Completely agree with that one. All right. If there's no more commendations, I will call on our student representative, Dan Howells.
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Evening, Dan.
So we are back from February break. And so first off, one thing that has definitely been affected this year by COVID has been sports, mainly the scheduling around them. And right now, for example, the football team, which normally plays in the fall, the volleyball team, which normally plays in the winter, and the baseball team, which normally plays in the spring, are all going right now. So it's a little bit funny how that works out, but I'm sure students are glad to be able to play their sports. Just as was mentioned, the ski team finished up a great season, as well as the boys and girls basketball teams and the boys and girls hockey team. So I have actually heard from some students that there have been some conflicts now that with the way the scheduling worked out, now they'll have to pick between two sports that normally aren't in the same season, but will be now. But I'm sure, they're definitely happy to get to do something as opposed to nothing. Additionally, the football team is fundraising to get some of the equipment, mainly for COVID, that they need. So I will share that link so we can get that posted. Course selection for next year has begun for 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And I imagine the 8th grade as well, coming into the high school. The scholarship process for seniors is beginning and will end in around April. And finally, Family Feud. So the senior class advisors and class officers have put together a Family Feud game. So next Wednesday, there will be at the high school Family Feud. So surveys have been sent out to each of the grades, as well as the staff at the high school, and as well as high school parents. So there have been a number of MHS-based questions and also some just other general questions, and seniors will get the chance to try to answer those in a Family Feud format at the high school next Wednesday. So the last day to sign up for that is Friday, and it will hopefully be a great event. This is something new that we're trying out. We picked it mainly because of its COVID safety. Everyone can be distant and still answering trivia questions. So we thought it would be fun, and we hope that it works out and that students all enjoy it as well.
That all sounds great. Thanks, Dan. And I hope that Family Feud is fun. Sounds like a good one.
For Dan, actually. Dan, there's been a lot of people I've heard in the community that kind of are very interested and ask about the senior project, because it's something we hear about. But if you have younger children or just aren't familiar, don't have a senior or haven't had a senior, it's something people don't necessarily know about. At some point, would you be up for kind of giving us a little overview of what the senior project is, what the path is, how you pick it, just a little bit about it? Because I haven't, I don't have any high schoolers. I'd like to know more about it. And I know that I've heard a lot of people in the community really interested in liking the idea of learning more.
Yeah, I could talk about that now, if that works. So Senior Project is basically a chance for seniors at the high school to engage in an internship that involves something that they are interested in pursuing. So normally you would, the internships would be mainly in person, but this year both virtual and in-person internships are being supported by the high school. So we just recently or in January, I guess, had our first introductory meeting about it. We got some info about, how we're gonna apply and things like that. So now at this point, we have all applied for our senior projects. You need a supervisor who works with whoever, whatever company you're trying to work with, as well as a mentor who is a teacher at the high school that you will communicate with to make sure, you're on pace and keeping up and things like that. The way that it works with the schedule is that seniors who are doing senior project don't go to their normal classes during the fourth quarter. So it takes place during the last quarter of their senior year, except for AP classes. So it's open to everyone if you're willing to do it. However, you do have to meet some academic requirements to be able to do it. And also some of the kids who are taking a lot of APs may not be able to do it because the APs are filling up their schedule. Yeah, that's just a little bit about it. I hope that, answered a lot of the questions.
Thank you so much. I just know it's been interesting to me, and I've heard other people ask about it. So thank you for giving us that synopsis.
Yeah, I could maybe next week I can come with some examples. I'll ask around, see what kids are doing.
That'd be
Wonderful.
great.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are pulling that off this year, because I know that's something that seniors really look forward to, and there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So I'm glad it's going to happen for everyone.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, Dan, as always. And we'll see you next week, since we're on an off schedule this week.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, that leads us to public comment. I think to start public comment this evening, I'm going to limit it to 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. And then if there seems to be additional people who want to comment, we can circle back towards the end of the at the end of the meeting. I just feel as though it would be helpful for the committee to be fresh as we push through our agenda this evening. And so we can hear some public comment, and then if necessary, we can hear the rest of it towards at the end of the meeting. If anyone who wants to make public comment can raise their hand, and I will just sort of monitor the time. And it's about 7:15 right now, so around 7:30, we'll just ask people to wait until the end. Catherine Martin, if you can state your name and address for the record as well.
Catherine Martin, 29 West Shore Drive, and I'll be very brief because I want to give everybody their opportunity to exercise their First Amendment right. So I attended the budget subcommittee meeting this week, and I was really thrilled to hear about the ESSR grant, or ESSER grant. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, and that we were able to obtain $350,000. And it sounds like we got another COVID relief grant for $100,000. And I want to applaud you for putting 25,000 of that immediately into technology. I think that's fantastic. So I want to talk about the balance of that. The other 400,000, and what can we do with that money for our students right now? And is there the ability to use it? You know, we heard about the 7 to 12 and how hard it is to get them in the building. Well, can we look at tents? Can we look at outdoor classrooms? Can we look at PPE? How do we use this money, and can we use it for the immediate needs of our students? I know that you have a 2-year window to use it. I know that we have a $980,000 gap with the town right now, budget-wise, but we also have a crisis. And I come on these meetings quite often and I talk about the budget and underfunding, but here's a chance where we actually have money and we actually have a problem. So maybe the agenda items can come together. Reopening and budget, and maybe we can look at using this money now for its immediate need. I understand that I don't know all the intricacies of this grant, and perhaps this isn't reasonable, but if there is the ability to use this money now, I would love to see it put forward to help ease the burden of our students right now in town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Jess Benedetto.
Yes, hi. My name is Dr. Jess Benedetto, Bradley Road. I'd like to give my perspective as a physician on the front lines treating COVID. I work at a hospital. I've been exposed to COVID at my job for a year now. I've never stayed at home since March 13th, 2020 because of my profession. I have seen COVID firsthand, and I understand how serious this disease can be. In terms of getting kids back to school 5 days a week, there is mounting evidence from the scientific community that we can do it with 3-foot distancing. There will never be a time in which there is zero risk to get our kids back to school. Scientific experts think that COVID represents the first pandemic in our lifetime, but it will not be the last. We need to implement a system in our schools to mitigate the risk as much as possible. For vets and the high school, we should treat the building like a hospital. Place mass stations at all entrances with alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Both staff and students use sanitizer, then remove their cloth mask and replace it with a well-fitting surgical mask. This mask is worn all day. We give the option of double masking with the cloth mask placed over the surgical one. Place hand sanitizer stations at the entrance to every classroom. Students must re-sanitize between every class and before lunch. Place buckets 6 feet apart outside, and students must eat outside whenever possible based on the weather. On bad weather days, put up folding tables in the gym and convert the gym to a second lunchroom to provide more distancing. Vaccines for teachers are coming, and this is another mitigation strategy. We must volunteer for pooled testing for our kids. This is another safety measure. We should attest to not sending our children to school when they're sick and test and quarantine as directed by health officials in the event of an exposure. This is another safety measure. All of these safety measures have been in place at the hospital for months, and we are not seeing COVID outbreaks in the building. I spent all day at my job discussing patient care with other doctors, nurses, and patients, and none of us speak to each other while being spaced 3 feet apart. We're closer than 3 feet. And with these safety measures, we are not getting COVID. We can do this. Let's stop discussing why we didn't do this before or pointing fingers at school committee administration or teachers union to blame others. Let's figure out how to move forward and use our COVID state money for the best quality, well-fitting surgical masks for all faculty, all staff, as well as students in grades 7 through 12, along with school-based hand sanitizer. We know transmission of COVID is less in younger children. At the elementary level, cloth masks are enough for kids, but let's provide all teachers and staff with the same surgical masks and sanitizer so our teachers feel safe adjusting to the new normal. Let's aim for 5 half days per week in school, all cohorts, all grades with similar hours. This is because we lack any sort of consistent transportation system in this town to have different schools on different schedules. At the same time, let's tackle the lunch issue and make the move to full-time, full days in the next few weeks if possible. Let's acknowledge that change is scary for everyone, but by focusing on the science, we can make that change happen in the safest way possible based on the available data now. If we minimize our risk using scientifically proven strategies, the benefit of our kids being in school will largely outweigh the risks of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benedetto. Alexia Kearney.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I just want to read a letter that has been signed by many people in our community that will be forwarded to all of you in the next few days. Dear Mr. Buckey and members of the Marblehead School Committee, we are parents, students, teachers, neighbors, caregivers, therapists, healthcare providers, and good citizens of Marblehead, and we care deeply about our students. The children enrolled in our district have lost thousands of hours of in-class learning, while other Massachusetts private and public schools have opened and demonstrated over the past year that a 3-foot distancing between students, along with other stringent mitigation efforts, result in almost zero in-school transmission of COVID-19. Our own state guidelines published in June 2020 set the social distancing requirements for schools at a minimum of 3 feet. The Massachusetts American Academy of Pediatrics have recently stood up for our students and sent an urgent message on February 14th, 2021, from a group of more than 60 physicians, public health experts, and infectious disease specialists who are urging Massachusetts education leaders like yourselves to ask schools to implement a 3-foot distance policy. These experts have given us a path forward to bring our students and teachers safely back to school in Marblehead. Our high-risk and remote teachers and students deserve the ability to live stream in Marblehead classrooms. Our school district has recently received grant funding for COVID relief in an amount over $450,000 and yet has not allocated its use. We ask that those funds be considered to upgrade our current technology platform, build outdoor classrooms, and create a more robust mental health initiative now, not next year. The risk to students of not being in a supportive school environment are dramatic, and we as a community are very concerned. Students have been isolated for months at home. Students in Marblehead are suffering an unprecedented level of more mental health issues, increased rates of non-accidental trauma, physical health concerns, and learning loss. We are worried and we are scared for the future of these children in Marblehead. We stand up for the students of Marblehead, and we hope our concerns will be heard and addressed by you, our educational leaders in Marblehead, tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexia. Jennifer Eaton.
Hi. As an ICU nurse, the past year has been a very long one. But as we've learned over time, it's masks, even more than any specific amount of social distancing, that has kept us safe from COVID. However, the reason I'm talking tonight is that when I informed my 5th grader the other day after the meeting that she would be returning to 5 days a week of school starting on March 15th, she was ecstatic. Remote learning has never worked for her, and in the past few months, it's been even more challenging. My 7th grader, however, said, "What about us?" I told her, well, they haven't made a decision yet. Her first reaction was, why doesn't 7th grade get to go as well? Is there anything we can do? One of the only positive things that's come out of COVID is that her transition to vets has been her new ability to self-advocate. As a student on an IEP and in the remote setting, she's had to ask for help in ways she never did before. Because she doesn't have access to her teachers throughout the day, she's learned that her needs and the support of her teachers in person is much better. She's learned that the needs and the support of her teachers in person is important daily. She's learned that sitting in front of Zooms and doing the at-home remote learning is next to impossible for students like her who struggle with attention and executive function needs. At 13, she knows what works for her and her learning style. And after 1 year of remote learning at home, this continued style isn't it. All of our students need to go back to in-person learning. We have a chance to make things slightly better for at least the last few months of these students. Because of her newfound self-advocacy skills, she would like to take a moment to speak to you. So if I may ask the chairperson to let her have a moment to speak, she would like to do so now.
Absolutely.
Being a kid with ADHD is hard on its own, but being a kid with ADHD this year is chaos. Hi, I'm Megan Eaton and I'm in 7th grade. School is really hard for me, and many of my friends with all the Zooms, online homework, and remote Wednesdays are very hard for all of us. I enjoy the days when I get to go in person to school because in a way it feels normal seeing my classmates again. I have an IEP in school, so learning for me is extra challenging. I think that remote Wednesdays are one of the most difficult days for all the students and teachers. It's really hard to do 5 classes in a row without a screen break. I think it's good having more time for classes on Wednesdays, but it's hard to sit in front of a computer all day. With my ADHD, I have a hard time focusing and I get distracted easily during the 42-minute block Zooms on Wednesday. My eyes hurt at the end of the day from staring at the computer. The worst part about not being in school more often is when I go into school on my Magician's days, I've noticed that the teachers often rush during class and don't get to explain the lessons as much as they probably would have last year. This makes my classmates and I confused about the homework when we get home. Another problem about the remote days is that we have to do our assignments on our own. This is really hard because the directions aren't as clear as they would have been in a normal school year. COVID-19 has caused a lot of problems, but I think one of the big ones in school is most of the students at school forget how to communicate with each other. When we went through quarantine, to me, it was torture. These past 6 months of 7th grade have been very difficult for myself and my classmates. I hope that since COVID-19 numbers are decreasing, we will be able to go back to school for 5 days a week. I really need my teachers in person and I miss seeing all my classmates. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. And I appreciate that you're standing up and talking to us and that you're willing to talk about the things that are struggles for you, because you're not alone in that. And there's a lot of kids out there who are struggling in very similar ways. All right, it's 7:30, so I'm going to ask Kelly Salowitz and Emily DeWitt to wait till the end, and we will come back and I'll ask for a motion to do public comment at the end of our meeting as well.
Sarah, can you just add another name? I've noticed a woman whose hand she's physically waving, but I don't know that she knows where the
Okay.
button is. And her name on the screen says Mary McCarriston. I thought she was waving it. Maybe not. No, she looked. Oh, all right. She was. It looks like she's signing. So if we can add her to the
Absolutely.
list that we're at the end
Yes.
for public comment, just so she knows that she's on it.
Yes, and I see Jeff St. George's hand raised as well at this point. So I've got those 4 written down, and we will hear from you guys at the end. Thank you. Okay, so that moves us to our consent agenda and action items. We have 1 set of minutes from January 21st, 2021. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes from January 1st, 2021? Sorry, January 21st, 2021.
So moved.
I'll
David
second.
moved. All right, Megan second.
Was the updated version of those in our Dropbox? I didn't see them in today's folder.
I don't believe there was any changes made to them.
I thought we tabled them because there was going to be a clarification made. Maybe
Right,
not.
I think we had, and then you didn't send the clarification.
Oh, I thought Lisa was going to look at the file. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any additions on those? Okay, I'll call for a roll call. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor,
Yes.
Emily Barron,
Yes.
Sarah Fox,
Yes.
David Harris.
Yes.
All right, those pass 5-0. All right, then we also had a memo from Stephen Kowalik about recycling some technology as surplus. So there was a relatively long list of things that he has identified to be recycled. So you guys got the memo about it. I will ask for a motion to allow the items on the memo from Stephen Kowalik to be deemed surplus and recycled.
So moved.
Sarah Fox move.
Second.
Megan second.
One question I had, Sarah, I noticed on there was 20 iPads, and I know that they were outdated, and so we wouldn't use them, you know, for in the teaching environment. But I didn't know by recycled. I mean, could we offer them if people in the community wanted them now that so much is tech based? And I know they get a school iPad now, but during the summer, I don't know if that's something we can do.
Stephen, I see that you're on here with us. I'll let you answer that.
Most of these iPads are not even in use anymore, don't even turn on. And most of them are probably over 10 years old. So they actually can't do a lot of the stuff that we need the kids to be able to work on today.
Okay. I just didn't know if they were functional, if someone wanted them, keep them from going in the dump, but.
I'm not sure exactly what the policy is too about handing out technology to the public. I don't know what the school policy is.
Well, the policy subcommittee will have to look into that. Thank you, Stephen. All right, any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, so we've got a motion that's been seconded. Sarah Gold, yes. Emily Barron,
Yes.
Sarah Fox,
Yes.
David Harris,
Yes.
and Megan Taylor.
Yes.
Usually everybody's tight on my screen, and they're not tonight, so I have to look. All right, that passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so that brings us to the superintendent's report, and you've got a couple of things delineated on there, but I think you've got a little bit of an update as well for us. So I will hand the floor to you, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back over Tuesday's meeting and make sure that people were clear that the March 15th date for K-6 does not require any negotiation with the teachers union, that is a set date. And I think the school committee arrived at that after hearing principals talk about the feasibility of March 1st and March 8th, and the turnaround time for them to be able to do that is where we got to March 15th. And so I just wanted to clarify that is a set date. Dan and Matt provided an option for the high school, and they talked about a preferred start date there. School committee asked that they get some data So they are going to push out a survey tomorrow that will ask questions about the current model, the proposed model, to gather data so that school committee next week can then vote to approve whatever's decided for 7 to 12. And so again, what they presented also is not contingent on MEA. What is going on with MEA right now is a renegotiation of the memorandum of agreement. And that is, by its nature, just as we came through collective bargaining recently, not an open process. And so we can't talk about this is what they've brought to the table as what they need in order to take these steps. And Sarah is the school committee representative and is the one charged at negotiating on behalf of the school committee. And so additional members of the school committee, people should not be advising teachers to work with individual members of the committee for this process. It should all go through Sarah if people have questions or concerns. And so that walks a fine line in Mass General Law if individual members of the school committee are working with teachers as we're doing negotiations in good faith. And so the K-6 model is set. That does not require negotiation. You'll make a decision next Thursday on the 7 to 12. What was presented does not require negotiation. The negotiation with the teachers union is solely focused right now on the 6 to 3 foot distancing. And just to update people on what we can talk about is we met, I'm going to be conscious of my mask because I know that people watching are will point out if it goes beneath my nose. We had a 2.5 hour bargaining session with MEA on Tuesday. They took information from that process back to their membership this week. They will meet with us again early next week to talk about what the results of working with their membership are. And so when I say that it's going well, that's what I can share, that it is an ongoing process. But to talk about this is what they're asking for, or this is what school committee is countering, we cannot talk about in public session.
You know, just a quick question, John. Isn't Megan and Sarah on our collective bargaining subcommittee? I thought that's who we assigned. How come Megan's not part of that?
This is the memorandum of agreement, which was just Sarah as the representative that did that this summer in August. And so it's Nan, Murphy, Sarah, and me, and then MEA has their representatives.
So Megan and I did the collective bargaining agreement for the ongoing, the agreements that we voted on for Unit A, and then the things that we have this evening that came back in executive session to the committee as well.
I had thought the two collective bargaining refers to any collective bargaining, so I thought both of you were covering that. And then to speak to what John said earlier about the date, can we get a notification out to families? Because although we had 460 or 470 people on our call, that by far is not our whole district. So can we, as soon as possible, get some type of communication out about that March 15th date so people can just start planning and adjusting their schedules?
Yes, and tomorrow's superintendent's weekly update will have very clearly delineated all of this information. There was something that I wanted to say that just went out of my mind. Oh, that the K-6 will be a change form, that unless parents indicate they want to change their current learning model, they are staying as currently enrolled. So if you're in remote and you want to go to hybrid in the 5-day model, you will need to indicate that. If you're in hybrid and wish to go fully remote, you will indicate that. It is an opt-in or opt-out process. We will not be surveying everyone to say, do you want to change your model or not? No news means that you are staying in your current model. So it will be incumbent on families to indicate that change. And again, the K-6 principals will be pushing that information out. It'll be in the weekly update, but it will be important that if they do not indicate a change, they will remain in their current model.
And John, if we push out, when we add lunch and go to full days, are we going to allow families another chance to opt out or in, or is this is it because we're at our trimester break at this point for our final trimester?
I would see this as binding for the next trimester.
Okay. So if someone is not truly happy that we're only doing half days, but knowing that we're going to be pushing towards full days, they should opt in at this point.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So the next thing is a pool testing update. And I am so grateful for Megan. Shout out to Amanda Rivers, because she has done a great job in stepping in, working over the break, because Project Beacon was aligned with us over the February break. I would just ask that for purposes of tonight, that Amanda just update us on kind of the facts of where we are, and that we do not go back into what is pool testing and how many pools will we have in that. She has made a great informational video that we pushed out to families this week that's on our website, but she does have, I don't want to steal her thunder, some really exciting developments that we are full in for the pool testing. So Amanda, take it away.
Hi. I was really fortunate that today I actually even got to go to Salem Charter School and shadow some of their pool testing to kind of see what they're doing. But mostly the things that, since I last spoke to the school committee, we have been set up with Beacon. Families are signed on. We have just under 600 people that have signed on to do the pool testing. And honestly, the more people that we can have buy into this program, the better. The more people that work and do it, the better our information is going to be. On top of that, I got all the supplies I need. So I officially have everything. We matched with a courier service. So I have courier pickup started. I will be able to start a little bit of it next week with the people that we do have signed on. And I hope continuously, like, we have it up on the website. You can enroll or disenroll whenever. As far as numbers go, we have a little, like 150 people at the high school, about 110 people at Village, 100 at Veterans, like I said, 600, and then the rest are sort of dispersed through there. What else? Oh, the other thing, I guess, to what the school committee, if they want to do this, is I know Salem right now is testing all the fall sports. So each sports team would end up being in like their own pools. Salem is actually mandating that if they do fall sports, that they have to be part of the pool testing program. So that's another idea that is definitely doable and something that we can do with the sports here. So nextly, how we will determine the pools and how they will be tested and when. So the nice thing is I have a little bit over 24 hours from taking the tests from when they get picked up. So I'll be able to do tests on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I have the courier service coming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to pick them up. So I'll have 4 days a week that I can do testing, and then do the reflex tested if need be through there. The elementary schools, most likely I'm going to be doing it during the day with it. Being able to actually go and see the testing getting done, it honestly takes less time than it takes to blow your nose to do it. So there's going to be negligible time lost to any students in there. It takes 30 seconds to swab them. And I plan on doing central admin as sort of to kind of show them what it's about Monday morning. So it's going to start next week. I'm really excited.
I think the one thing that I would just want to jump on that is exciting, and the commissioner announced this in a call yesterday, is that they're extending the program through April vacation. So it will go through April 18th. So we will have 7 free from the department weeks of pool testing. And so I know that there was some concern that we were maybe getting a late start, but we'll start Monday and then be able to go through the April vacation.
That's great news. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a successful program statewide, if they extend it again. Amanda, thank you so much. You've put so much work into all of this, and it's really, really appreciated. I would like to make a motion to mandate sports to pool test, following the example from Salem.
I'll second that motion. I think we just need to have it pending legal. That was, we discussed it this morning in reopening. And so that was sort of that general feel that we were just going to make sure. Yeah.
Yep. I'll look into that. And we do have a meeting scheduled with Greg Siglarski, and I think he's on board with that as well.
All right. Any comments on that?
Thank you so much, Amanda.
We have a motion on the floor.
But it's pending legal. I don't really want to vote anything if it's not legal.
So we can come back to it.
I think we're going to meet next week, aren't we?
Yep.
And we'll be able to get a resolution by next week, I would think. Is that agreeable to you, Sarah?
I'd like to vote it now. I think it's pending. If legal says it's not okay, it falls to the wayside.
That is how I see that too. If legal says it's a no-go, then it's a no-go.
Yeah. I mean, there's other public schools doing it. I have to assume they've used their legal, but we should definitely check ours.
Well, so if I could ask the school nurse, so we have 600 out of 3,000 people enrolled. So why are people not enrolling?
Why? So I think initially it may have been due to the fact that there was some, or people didn't know what pool testing is. So that's why we did the video and we put it out as of Wednesday. I think I'm not sure. It's not invasive. It's not traumatic. It's a 30-second procedure that gives us a lot of really good information as to the incidence of COVID within the schools, and especially where right now there's talk about the 6 feet and 3 feet in the elementary schools. It's something to give the teachers more confidence that what we have set up is working. I've answered a lot of questions. I've tried to put my email on everything that I can. So if anyone's questioning whether or not they should sign up, I encourage them to email me to try to soothe maybe any sort of concerns or what they don't know. But I think too, maybe people are waiting to see what happens the first week. That's all I can really think of, to be honest.
Great.
I'm also hopeful that after it's talked about again tonight, so we kind of had it push out and continue forward over February break. And so now it's sort of back on people's periphery, and that we'll get more to people to sign up. Because I do think that there was more of an interest sort of in kind of things that I was hearing than sort of what is being sold out in the numbers right now. Emily?
So I think it would be helpful. I know this doesn't really have to do with the motion, but kind of what David's saying. Can we have every principal send out the email with the link? Or I don't know if we've already done that, but almost like every week, send it out. Be like, this is how you sign. It's super easy. I did it when we got the last one, I think, from Amanda, and just say, this is how you do it. Because a lot of, I think, emails don't always necessarily get opened. And so if it's one from a principal, or even, I don't know, if teachers can just get it in front of people as much as possible, because it is a step you have to take, and that's sometimes hard to.
Yeah.
So just have people send it weekly, and then I bet we'll get more.
It's also on the Back Together Marblehead site. So if you go into there, there's a section with pool testing, so you can easily click there too. And Beacon testing has been really awesome as far as if anyone's having any sort of technical difficulties with being able to figure it out. So if I can't, they definitely can.
Yeah.
But once again, sorry.
I was going to say it was really easy. I put my kids on and it took just a few minutes.
But going to the website again is one step too much for parents, I think. You know what I mean? I just put it in their face if we can.
We will absolutely do that.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, just make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think past practice of this board, unrelated to COVID, we post our agenda also, and we usually identify items that we're looking for a vote on.
You do try.
And We try to, and I think, you know, there's been objections that if we vote on things, maybe other people would have attended the meeting to be heard. And while the agenda does have a pool testing update, it doesn't say that we're going to vote on mandating athletics. And I would just like to just understand a little bit more about it before I vote on it. I'm not opposed to it by any means. I just don't know enough about it to just say that because Salem's doing it, everybody else ought to do it. I think Salem is also still red.
Well,
And
it's Salem Charter that's doing it. It's not.
Salem Charter.
Oh, no, I think it's Salem Public.
No, it's Salem Public School.
Oh, is it?
It's Salem Public School Sports. So, I mean, feel free, but I would just like to know more about it before vote on something that just has been presented in 60 seconds or less.
Yeah, and I think again, I'm not opposed to it, but I would like Greg to really think it through and come to us and present his thoughts on it, and you know, someone make the recommendation to us, again, following past practice. So we can really understand exactly what that's going to mean to the sport team, how they're going to break it up, what happens if they get a positive. Like, let's kind of work through all that. I mean, we're talking about really a matter of a few days. So I think that's just not that we're not, you know, honestly considering it, and not that we don't all think it's a good idea, but let's just kind of like think it through and get all the information before we vote.
There's a motion on the table. People can abstain or vote no.
There's an opportunity to discuss the motion as well after it's been seconded.
No, I totally understand.
Thank you.
We continue to discuss, but I'm not foregoing it.
So through the chair, I would recommend that we vote on the motion on the floor now, but that we put this as a votable agenda item for the meeting next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
And allow Greg and Amanda to do a joint presentation.
Okay. All right. I will call for a roll call vote. Did you have anything additional, David? You're good. Okay. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor,
no.
Emily Barron,
No.
Sarah Fox,
Yes.
David Harris.
No.
Okay, so the motion fails 2 to 3.
Just to clarify that, though, I'm not voting against it. I'm voting to get more information and to make a decision based on an informed presentation.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
that's my comment as well, and to do that next Thursday.
Yep.
Yes.
And mine as well.
All right. Lisa and I will be probably working on the agenda for next week tomorrow morning. So it will be on our agenda. And Dr. Bucky, we can have Greg come and talk as well. Wonderful. Thank you. Carry on.
Contracts. We have the remaining contracts, the custodians, paraprofessionals, tutors, permanent subs, and we omitted cafeteria workers on the agenda, but I would like to include them as a bargaining unit that you vote as the contracts are all the same. And so it would not be differentiated. And I think that you have the language there that was similar to the Unit A agreement that applies to the remaining 5. And also the language for subcommittees to do any language changes as agreed upon by both.
Can I just ask a question about that, though?
Absolutely.
So when we voted to approve the teacher Unit A, we voted to establish that committee then. So do we need to reestablish it? Because it would be the same. Would it be the same committee, or would it be a different committee?
I think they would be different because they would have representatives for, like, if there were changes to language in a custodian agreement, that they would have a representative for custodians or paraprofessionals or tutors or cafeteria workers.
Okay, but it'd be the same representatives from our side.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
For the administration side, it would be the same.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
I do. So probably unrelated to this, but how did we cover stipends? What was that usually also is handled on the side? What was the comment that we made about how stipends were going to be addressed.
That it would be on the side that it was not included in what you're agreeing to, that it did not apply to stipends.
So is that something that will take place in the next couple of months, or you'll find the opportunity to do
David,
that?
that was something that was discussed in executive session, so that did come up in executive session.
Okay, I'm sorry, Sarah. I just failed to have a recollection of what was discussed in executive session. So
No, I just wanted to make sure we weren't getting into an area that we might get.
I can definitely follow up on that.
No, I'm just, I mean, I'm not talking about what was talked about in executive session. I'm just asking if stipends are going to be addressed at some point. And thank you for the clarification.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, thank you. I've got two motions here. So the first motion, can I get a motion to approve the MOA for collective bargaining agreements with the MEA custodian, cafeteria, paraprofessional, tutor, and permanent substitute contracts beginning at the start of the 2021 school year through August 31st, 2024 as presented?
So moved.
David moved.
Second.
Megan second. All right, this mimics the Unit A, so there shouldn't be really any questions. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Emily Barron?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, are we voting on the part that wasn't on the agenda for vote 2?
It was just one of the additional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm comfortable doing that.
David Harris?
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. And then motion 2 is, can I get a motion to approve the establishment of subcommittees to investigate and report out findings or recommendations to the parties for considerations on negotiation regarding which changes?
So moved.
Megan moved.
Second.
Emily second. All right, I will roll call that. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Emily Barron?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
And David Harris?
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0 as well. Thank you, everyone. John?
The town report is something I'm proud of, because it was a document that was, in my humble opinion, pretty sterile and didn't give an intimate look into the schools. And so I asked each principal to write a narrative of the year that was. And I think it's very safe to say the 1920 academic year was a very different year. And so listing the immunization needs for the public schools and people's extensions didn't seem to provide much detail to the community. And so we were able to take a town report that was 33 pages in length and shorten it down to, I think, 22 pages. And I would argue to say 22 pages of information that is very transparent about what happened at each school in each program and kind of highlights the year that was. I will say it is awkward as a new superintendent to write about a year when you weren't here, but I am appreciative of the directors and principals that wrote that, and I think the community will appreciate it as well. And so that was in the Dropbox for you last night, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the town report if people have them.
Any questions?
No, I think it looks good. Well done.
Thank you.
In the past, has there been a fiscal portion of the town report? David maybe knows this better from his years on FinCom.
I'm going to look to David because I don't know how to answer that question. I don't think I recall seeing they gave me previous years as exemplars to use. I know there was a lot of testing data that we didn't have available because there wasn't MCAS data. There was some at the high school through SAT and AP scores, but I don't know if there was, and Lisa is listening in, so maybe she could chime in as well.
Michelle Cresta is here too.
And I think you have the FinCom report and the town report, which are two separate documents. So not really sure wasn't too involved in the town report, more so on the FinCom book that, has a report in it and all of the budget information.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here real quick. I believe all the financial information is from the town audit, and because we're just part of the town audit, that's what's included in the town report. So we
Yeah.
don't have a separate financial section for the school department.
Okay, I just didn't know if it gets noted somewhere that we came in under budget last year.
No, we don't. We don't just pull out the school budget.
And that's the superintendent's report.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. So that leads us to our finance portion. Michelle, we've got our monthly financial report up first.
Yes, have lots of information for you. So good evening. First, the FY21 financial report. As of the end of January, we were 44% through the operating budget, or we had spent $18,019,878. This month, there were not any significant changes. Just in the past couple of months, it's been a quiet couple of months financially, knock on wood. The only slight change we've had is in the out-of-district tuition costs. It has actually decreased slightly, which is great. It's to our benefit. And right now we are projecting a shortfall of just under $7,000. And I'll repeat that. We're projecting a shortfall of just under $7,000. That actually really excites me because with all of the movement we've had this year and all of the uncertainty, the fact that we are at that point, it's wonderful. So, Eric and I continually talk about this. We meet about this. We have shared spreadsheets. It's a really good working relationship, and we really, are on target here. Now, the area that I point out each month, have for the past couple of months, is the area of substitute teaching costs. We have spent a total of $30,237 as of the end of January, and that is just 13% of our substitute teaching budget. We continue to struggle to find day-to-day subs, but we are servicing our students, even if that means a principal jumps in and fills in for a classroom or someone else. We're not letting these students not have what they need in the classrooms, but it is a little bit of a struggle for our administration. And on to the big news is the COVID funding. So we currently, as has been mentioned, and we talked about it at the budget subcommittee, we have two new funding sources of COVID funds that have been awarded to the school district. The first is the State Coronavirus Prevention Fund, and that is in the amount of $98,175. And the second is the ESSER 2 grant, and that's ESSER. It's an acronym, and it's the second grant because we got an ESSER 1 grant earlier in the year. And that is in the amount of $364,464. That amount actually has $10,000 that we have to set aside for mental health purposes. The rest of it, we can determine what our COVID related needs are, and whether that be remediation services or something we need to do to get our students back, we can certainly spend on. That is just recent that we know about that amount, and we know what the guidelines are. The grant just opened last week. So we certainly have some planning to figure out what those funds will be used for. And it was mentioned that these funds can roll over if needed. So we can use them this year, we can use them next year, or even into September 23. So far, we have spent a total in COVID costs of $1,486,000. And we have encumbered another $373,000, and we anticipate an additional $151 at the current time. So that brings our total COVID costs pretty much committed of just over $2 million. It's $2,011,662. So for this, these two new pots of COVID funding that we've received, the first one in the amount of $98,000 will be earmarked completely for IT services. This will cover the fiber connection that I'll be asking you to consider for approval coming up very shortly in the agenda. And the other one is the internal fiber at the high school, where a lot of our connectivity issues are happening. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but the $98,000 is going to be completely earmarked for technology needs. The $354,000, which is the remaining amount of the ESSER 2 grant, that is not specifically for mental health services can be used for technology if we need, can be used for a variety of items. So the district really needs to figure out what we need. I do want to mention that the past couple of days, since we're really ramping up for bringing students back into the schools, some additional costs have come up. We may need some additional rolling carts for teachers because they're no longer able to use their big bulky desks. We might need some additional desk dividers. There's all types of costs that have come across my desks in the past 2 days. So those will be considered, and we will have to take a look at if we need to jump into this most recent grant funding opportunity or not to bring these kids back. And so certainly we will make sure we do what we need to do to get these kids back, and we will use these funds wisely. We don't want to just throw them out the door and spend them without giving some serious thought to how we need to best spend these funds. But that's it in terms of the COVID funding report and the monthly report. If the committee has any questions, feel free to ask.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. I know I was talking with Nan Murphy earlier today about that ESSER grant and the $10,000 that's allocated to social emotional. We were talking about, trauma-informed care, both in classrooms and in guidance. And so it's, I know that everybody is right on top of all this stuff. So
absolutely,
great.
There's a lot going on, which is great.
Yes. Sarah Fox.
Do you foresee more grants coming in this fiscal year potentially to help us with any COVID expenditures?
There are some rumblings about an additional aid package. Nothing for certain that I've heard about. So potentially we could get more funds. One of these two pots of money, the $98,000, actually has to be spent this year, and the second pot of money, that ESSER grant, does not have to be spent this year. So we have some leeway, so we need to be careful about what pots of money we spend when. Most of them do carry over, so we're well aware of that. So if there's any lingering small funds here and there, we will do that. But we're hoping to get more funding, and we will certainly, use that to the best of our abilities. And we do have a wide range of items that we can spend it on, which is great, because a lot of the COVID related costs, you think of COVID and you think of the PPE, and you think of the HVAC systems and all these, but there's so much more. There's so many student services, there's so much professional development where we can help these teachers, help our students and just, improve the district. And with all this COVID funding, we really have been given a great opportunity to start to bring our technology up to where it needs to be. So we will certainly spend all these dollars in the best manner possible.
Can I just follow on from Michelle too, just more for information for the rest of the committee, is in her monthly report, she's now kind of itemized all our funding sources and, the amounts obviously, but the dates, that those expire because they do expire at all different times. So it's just worthwhile to really think about that so that we're managing the use of those funds in a, effective way.
Absolutely.
As far as the mental health piece goes of the ESSER grant, how quickly can we vet whatever the use is going to be for that and really start to implement that and get that moving, because we know how vital those services are. My sense is 10,000 may not even, cover once we identify what those needs are. But I want to start that ball rolling.
Oh, absolutely. Some of our current grants did not require a mental health spending, but we did set aside a lot of funds for direct student services and programs like that. So we still have some funds allocated for such programs, and we can use that right away. And if we do need to tap into this most recent grant, we can tap into that, as soon as next month. So that's not a problem at all.
Now,
as I mentioned, Sarah, Nan has kind of, she's got a bucket full of ideas and things, leads that she's following up on and really kind of moving the district at all levels forward on that mental health piece.
That's wonderful. Is there a plan to use any of this funding or a need for it for additional summer services that may, which probably will be needed to kind of, fill any gaps that may exist?
I can't speak to that specifically. Nan may be able to speak to that. And I believe part of the Student Opportunity Act will also include additional summer services for our students. But certainly we can do that as well.
Okay. And then can you give us
Sarah?
a break? Oh,
Sarah,
yeah.
can I also add, on the commissioner's call this week, he did allude to perhaps providing funding to districts to offer some summer support.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Nan, for adding that. And can we get a breakdown of that COVID spending? Which items in that list kind of were funded through the school allocated funding versus the town allocated funding? Because I know there were two different pots to kind of draw that from.
Yeah, well, with these two new funding sources, we actually have a total of 6 different pots. So yes, I can certainly give that to you. I do have it on this massive spreadsheet, so I can break that down and give it to the committee.
Thank you. And can we go, I have a visitor. Okay, thank you. Can we go into our subline since, you know, we're not going to use all that reasonably at this point in the year. To fund getting kids back, whether that's, you know, tents or whatever is needed. Can we go safely into that sublines, or has that been assigned or allocated to something else at this point?
No, we can certainly do that. We're, you know, in the next couple of weeks, I will be doing a projection through the end of the year just to make sure to see what our budget surplus is looking like. You really don't want to do that really before you get to the last quarter of the year. So I typically do that in March. And we'll know if we have specific shortfalls in any other areas. I'm really not targeting any other area, especially where we have closed the special education tuition gap at this point, essentially. So yeah, we can certainly use some of those surplus funds. That's not a problem.
That's great to hear. And then my last question is, those items that you're saying we need to get those kids back, I'm really happy we have funding for that. What is the lead time? Because I'm assuming a lot of districts are kind of vying for some of the same types of things right now. Are we confident we're going to get that stuff we need in a timely manner?
We believe so, yes. Pretty much everything we've asked about is readily in stock. So I believe we started ordering samples today to make sure it's what the teachers want. And we should have no problem getting them within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Michelle, so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Michelle. Did anybody else have any other questions for Michelle? All right, great.
Sorry, I don't have questions. I don't know if it's worth doing it now or just because we're talking about budget or the subcommittee update, but just that we met with the town this week and went through kind of all the materials that we've got here too. And I just want to say it was a positive meeting. I think very collaborative. You know, we've got a few more meetings over the next couple of weeks with them. So, you know, process kicked off with them and it's all been good to go.
Great. I think that's a great lead in to Michelle, assuming that you're headed towards the FY22 budget update as well.
FY22, yes. Yeah, and basically we covered this extensively at the budget subcommittee meeting yesterday. So our FY22 budget, the total has not changed since we had our budget workshop. We haven't begun to start digging in and making cuts to any figures. But what I did share with the budget subcommittee and I put into the school committee packet this week is a listing of the FY22 budget priorities. Nothing new there. But basically just summarized the items with dollar figures. So I'll briefly run down those. So for the Brown School, we have an expanded preschool program. We are looking for 2 teachers, 4 paraprofessionals. That cost less than additional estimated preschool revenue because of the 2 additional classrooms is a total cost of $147,670. The next item in no particular order on the budget priority list is 2 integration technology specialists for a total cost of $160,000. The next item is IT capital leases for network switching, wireless, and our replacement of the phone system across the district, except for the Brown School, which will already have a new phone system. And that cost is estimated to be $212,706. That is a finance cost over a 3-year period. Those quotes actually have started to come in and we might be looking at a little bit of a lesser cost than that. Curriculum, we're looking for two instructional specialists for a total cost of $121,120. Curriculum with a new math program for grades K to 8. Looking at a total cost or just estimated at $100,000, and that may be a multi-year cost as well due to financing. And central admin, we're looking for an HR director, which would actually be an increased cost of $30,000 because we currently have an HR assistant, which will be absorbed by the HR director's position. And we're looking for a community relations liaison for estimated cost of $42,000. So those budget priorities come up to a total of $813,496. These are included in the total budget figure that was presented at the budget workshop. The second document just details the FY22 budget changes from the current year's budget of the $40,521,000 with all of the operational changes, increases and reductions. And then it lists each of the requests, the budget requests, and mostly positions. That comes out to the total of the $42,649,142 that what was presented to school committee at the workshops. And we will do that deep dive into starting to cut those numbers. And then the last document was really a budget tracking sheet, which shows what the town's target is. And we reviewed that with the town yesterday. This week's been a very long week. So it was just yesterday morning that we reviewed the target with them, and the target between the town's number and what our total budget ask at the present time is a difference of $974,624. So that is what we need to start working on, that number, and we will start doing that, I believe, in the coming meetings. With a target date, I believe the school committee goes to the finance committee, I believe on April 1st, if I recall correctly.
Hold on.
Did we resolve
I think
that?
it's April
The
5th. meeting.
Yeah,
April 5th.
April 5th.
April 5th.
Yes.
So Michelle, just a clarifying question, I think, because so the budget priorities, that sheet, that's sort of based off of the outlined pieces that were discussed sort of pre-budget season of kind of where our focus was going to be. And then, so one thing I was just concerned about is that Mandy Murphy's guidance counselor position wasn't on there, but then I see it over here on this other page. So it's not that it's not in there, it's just not on the priority list, and it's sort of within that larger 974,000 gap.
Correct. It's included in the total ask. It was not a dedicated budget priority by the superintendent to the school.
Great. Just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly.
Yes.
Thank you. Sarah?
Welcome.
I have two questions. I'll go with Village first because Sarah started there. Where it talks about the teacher leader stipend positions, my understanding in years past when we had tried to kind of move those out was that they were part of the is it Unit A contract?
Yes.
Do we have to negotiate that, or is that how can we get rid of that if it's in the contract?
That is something we will have to certainly talk to the union about, because if we eliminated them, we would just be eliminating them at that one location and not district-wide, because district-wide, that is a significant cost, and it would most likely lead to reopening the contract. So we would definitely have to have a discussion with them.
Okay. And then my other question is, at the Brown School where we have teacher reductions, I know that right now we have 3 elementary school teacher full-time positions up on School Spring. Is there a way to possibly, and that was an immediate position, an immediate need, which isn't going away, I would assume, could we fill them with long-term subs, and instead of reducing teacher positions that we're hiring now, use it more as a transfer, if you will?
The positions are classroom teachers that are not needed due to decreased student enrollment, and that's not due to COVID. It's the bubbles that are going through the district right now. The positions that are posted right now are posted in anticipation of needing additional classrooms while we're bringing these students back in. They would be hired as long-term subs. for the remainder of the year. So we would
So
not
one's
have,
a short-term need and one is the lack of a long-term need.
correct. Exactly. But, you know, usually throughout the budget process and throughout this period of time, throughout the end of the year, we do see a lot of movement between teachers, and, you know, we really need to take a look at what each of them, what area they're licensed in and whatnot. But you see a lot of transfers between schools, between grades and whatnot. So in the end, very few people are typically laid off at all, if any at all. So we will certainly take all means necessary to see if we can keep all those teachers within the district, just in other roles that we currently have vacancies or have needs.
Yeah, obviously that's the ideal. We don't have a crystal ball, but if we're saying it's a short-term need now, is there a way to kind of project if we're going to need that additional need, you know, to allocate for spacing in the fall to make sure that we have a full-on opening in the fall? Or is it too early to kind of make that prediction?
I think it's really too early to make that prediction. I mean, we will have a better handle on what we will need in the fall in the coming weeks as we bring these students back. And we'll figure out, you know, which families want to come back now, which families are really planning on a return for the fall. Unfortunately, we don't have that crystal ball, and we're hoping that all school, you know, staff are vaccinated before September, and all the families have opportunities to have the vaccine. So with the best intentions, we're hoping for a normal school year, and that's what we're budgeting for. And that is also part of the reason, if we have the opportunity to save some of these COVID pots of money to go into the new year, to be able to have those at our disposal for the next year as well. Because I do anticipate we will have some unexpected costs. Just dealing with what we need to do to have these kids back in school full time.
I know last year we had that unexpected COVID expense line for 162,000. Are we including anything like that for this year to allocate us some planning space, or no?
Not at this time, but if we have the opportunity, we probably should consider that as well.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
All right, so next on is the contract award for the Fiber Connections. So you've got a memo for us in our Dropbox. Want to bring us up to speed, and then we'll get that passed?
Yes, I thought I was done. Completely forgot about that. So thank you. Yes, so there's a memo in your packet for the award of the contract for the Fiber Connection. This basically would replace the connecting all of the school buildings, with the exception of Eveleth and Coffin. We wouldn't replace their connections at this time. But this would be for the actual connection between all the schools, and this is the backbone of our infrastructure. What we currently have has been explained to me, and I am no IT expert, and we have Stephen on if we should need it. It's currently a daisy chain loop, and you think about loops, lots of loops, and redundancy, not redundancy, but potential for failure and causing delays in our current system. So we have, or Stephen has done a lot of work and has come up with this solution. It is through a state contract, so it does not need to be bid any further. And it would be through state contract ITC 68. And the lowest cost was through a company, Comtract of Boxborough, Massachusetts. And the total cost would be $79,900 for this. And if we can vote this contract tonight, I believe the services would, start pretty quickly. Stephen has them lined up and ready to go as soon as we can. We're very anxious to get this done, but it should also be noted that this contract would come out of one of those new COVID funding pots, that $98,000 of the coronavirus prevention funds that the state gave us. And this, along with some extra internal fiber at the high school, will be used to increase our immediate needs for our connectivity. And any of the parents and staff understand that the challenges that we've been going through. So this is an immediate need, and it's a great use of these funds.
Stephen, I saw you raise your hand. Did you want to add something here?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Michelle had said that Eveleth was not included, but it actually is
Oh, it is. Okay. I did not realize that. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Um,
All right. Can I just ask for the
yeah,
motion
get
and
the
then we
motion
can
and then,
have the questions? All right. Can I get a motion to award a one-time contract for the design and installation of a fiber connection covering all school locations to Comtract of Boxborough, Massachusetts, in the amount of $79,900, and to authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of the committee.
so moved.
So moved.
Megan moved.
Seconded.
Sarah second. All right, Megan, do you have a question?
I just had two questions, probably more to Stephen, if you don't mind. But Stephen, I know Michelle said that you have this vendor lined up and ready to go, but what's the timeline for implementation?
So currently, the high school internal fiber is scheduled for April break. We didn't want to take a chance of having any downtime while we are still in session. The fiber, as soon as we sign this contract, we'll get on the schedule. Normally, that's at minimum 6 weeks out, but it should all be installed, I would say easily before the summer.
Okay. And then from a user experience, what should the user see?
After we get the high school internally upgraded, our internal speeds at the high school and connectivity between each of the closets will be greatly increased just from the 20-year-old wiring that we have currently. The fiber between all the backbone really from building to building will be better than what we have currently, but increasing once we get into replacing the core switching at each building, the speeds will be increased at that point using the new fiber.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sarah?
So we won't see an impact on this school year then, most likely.
It would probably be minimal right this second until we can actually upgrade the core networking inside each of the buildings and then, update the wireless throughout the buildings as well. Then we'll really see it.
And would this update and change allow us to live stream more effectively without interruption?
With that, once we upgrade the other pieces and parts, then yes.
This won't. You said you're going to try. Your goal is to do this over April break, so there will be no downtime.
Internal, yeah, the internal fiber closet to closet inside the high school will be done during the April break right now. That's when we're scheduled.
Okay, so there won't be any downtime at any of the schools during the school.
Yeah, we do not expect to have any downtime.
All right, thank you so much.
Great, thank you both. Any other questions? All right, we've got a motion and seconded. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Emily Barron?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
And David Harris?
Yes.
Great, that passes 5-0. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then finally in this section, we've got a schedule of bills. They were all in the Dropbox to be looked over. Can I get a motion to approve the identified schedule of bills totaling $406,863.10?
So moved.
Megan moved.
Second.
Emily second. Any questions there?
No.
All right. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Emily Barron?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Michelle, can I vote on this one? Remember our conversation?
I believe actually the bill is in this particular batch.
I abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
And David Harris?
Yes.
All right, so that passes 4-0 with one abstention. All right, thank you, Michelle, as well as Stephen.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked because I looked through it and I couldn't figure out which one it was.
All right, so that leads us up to school committee communications and discussion items. So there's a whole bunch of policies on here, some of which actually don't need to be discussed tonight. So I apologize. I didn't have the edits made when we needed to put this through. So the first group, I actually want to ask that the face coverings, the EBCFA face coverings one be pushed to next meeting. We put it on this one as an emergency vote if we were going to be opening next week with more children in the classrooms. But since we don't, we can actually take it through the typical policy or the best practice policy process. So Emily and I met today and we looked it over. There was a request from principals to look over the mask break distancing language. And so there are actually very few changes that needed to be made. Just referencing when taking a mask break that it is ideal to be outdoors, but that it is okay to be indoors as long as they are distanced at 6 feet or more. So that was really, it's all marked in red as I've been doing with any of the changes. So that will come back around next time on next Thursday for a vote. And then the others were on for the February 4th meeting. And because we ran so long, we just tabled that agenda item. And so it's back around. So this would be the third read. It went to subcommittee, then it was on one agenda, and now this is the vote. So any questions on the I's and the F?
So I have a question on the face covering. Do you want me to come back to that?
Oh, you can ask a question.
Okay. So that one, I mean, you're right. There's barely any changes in it, but the one I just wonder if we can look at, or I'm not sure, is it says during physical education classes, chorus, choir, instruments, etc. Those have to occur outside with a minimum of 10 feet physical distancing. So I guess that one's just confusing to me since we can, we're allowing sports, we can eat at 6 feet, we're outside at 6 feet. Why is that one still at 10?
So that's unmasked. So everything else that you're talking about is when masked. So this is if you're performing those activities unmasked, you need to be distanced at 10 feet, and that's per DESE guidance.
So if they're outside on a mask break, do they still need to be at 10 feet?
No, and that's the language that's changed above. So if they're outside performing those activities, DESE guidance still requires a 10 feet distance.
It's the activity piece of it.
Yes.
Because they are
because they're either in
projecting
physical
more.
activity. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Through the chair. I just, on the call with the commissioner yesterday, they had proposed new singing guidance and that was rejected by medical health professionals. And so the commissioner said that they have to resubmit and update the concerns that were rejected. So there's no updated guidance since the beginning of the year on singing.
So when that comes back, as it hopefully will, going to be approved to be singing, if that needs to be looked at again, we'll just bring it back and edit it at that point.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So so the face coverings one we'll see next week. And so can I get a motion to approve the policy changes to policy IHAM health education, IHAMR health education exemption procedure, IHAMA parent notification relative to sex education, IHAMB teaching about alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, and FFA memorials.
So moved.
Megan moved.
Second.
Sarah second. All right. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor.
Yes.
Emily Barron.
Yes.
Sarah Fox.
Yes.
And David Harris.
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. So that takes us to the next, and let me see. The policies that we're actually changing are, let me find that email really quickly. Emily, do you want to explain the J's while I look for this email and which ones? Yes.
I don't know what.
Sorry.
That we're not talking about it right now.
Yeah. Okay. So the ones, sorry, I got it. The policies that we're actually that are actually up for a first read tonight are IHCA summer schools and IHBAA. That first one. Yes. So those are the two. All the other I's are not being looked at. We found that those were fine. So I apologize for that.
What about the other J's?
So the J's, I'll explain the J's. In a review from, was it Desi? A Desi review on those policies that relate, is it mostly relating to special education or and English language learners? So this was in work with Emily Dean. And so Desi identified some places in all of these policies that needed to be changed. So that it went in those edits, and they're in red. All of those changes have been made. And so at our next meeting, then we will need to vote those changes.
Okay, so are we voting anything more tonight?
Nope, not from policy. So these are all just the reads. All right.
I have it that we're going to review them on March 9th, the J's, in our subcommittee meeting.
Nope, we reviewed them in February, in the February.
Oh, maybe I said February 9th.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, and yeah, sorry.
All right, that leads us then to other subcommittee and liaison updates. Sounds like you did budget, Megan?
Yep.
Okay.
Unless I don't know if David has anything to add. I was pretty brief. We met. It was great.
Yeah, and I think what Michelle just presented was essentially that meeting.
Yep, great. And then facilities? Anything from February?
No, we postponed that meeting because we're waiting for the facilities assessment to come back in, and we anticipate probably having to have 2 meetings that month when that comes back, because we'll have a lot more work to do once we have that, but we're kind of in a holding pattern right now.
So Sarah, when do you expect that back?
Michelle's handling that. My estimation, if we're still on track from the first one, I think is in the next, what, about 3 weeks, Michelle?
Yeah, we should see a draft of it in the next 3 weeks, and then the final version probably at the end of March or so.
And I think we can start working off the draft. I'm comfortable with that. I don't think there will be any drastic changes between the draft and the final version.
Absolutely.
Except maybe a level of detail.
Great. Can we also just, to kind of put on your guys' radar, I know things are busy, to just update the minutes for that subcommittee?
Yes, we've actually voted some of them, but I don't know if they're up on the website.
Okay.
So I'll go back
Yeah, just
and
forward them
make
to
sure.
Emily and she'll put them up right away. And there's also, I believe Lisa has created a minutes folder in the Google
Okay.
Drive folder that she has for us.
Yeah.
So if you drop them into there, once they're voted, then Emily's got access to that as well. And so between Lisa or Emily, they'll get them posted.
Okay, I'll probably just email them to Emily because I am very tech inept. So
All right, sounds good.
do that.
Anything more there?
I was going to ask about the safety committee that hasn't met this year, and we had talked about at the beginning of the year that there probably would be a higher need given, the pandemic. So I'm just wondering if we're going to get together as that or where we are.
Anything on that, John? I think that's more superintendent advisory.
Yes, we can put a meeting on the calendar.
Great. Anything from Matco?
No, I don't have anything
Okay,
to
great.
update today.
And then anything from CPAC? All right, nothing from CPAC either. David, you want to take it away with a building update?
Certainly will. Thank you very much. So can people see that? Let's see if this works. Whoops, let me go back. So this would be this is the first viewing of what is called the Nichiha panels that are in between the brick. Those have been going in rather quickly. The framing was all put in, and then the area that you see right at the beginning of the picture is really the area that they've been using from the mock-up in the building. So on the exterior, they would mock up the windows, and then they mocked up the panels. And it's everything from are they recessing the screws? Are the screws going to be colored screws? Making sure that it's all passes what the architect and what the team thinks and what Gilbane thinks. And then once that's agreed on, they're on their way. So that's what you're seeing now. And it's exciting to see what they call the storefront. So the bottom has doors in each classroom, and then the upstairs you can see it looks like a door, but it's you'll see a picture coming up. It's really cool because it's a floor to ceiling kind of window. But and the reason the doors aren't put in, it's almost a contractor issue. They come pre-framed. And so once the doors go in, there's a tendency for the contractors, even though you tell them not to use the doors, they go in and out of the doors. And there's an opportunity for them to get damaged or nicked up. So Gilbane's just sort of holding off until a little bit of a later date to get those doors in, but they are on site. This is the interior mock-up of the classroom. And as I was mentioning, you can see how beautiful that view is. This is looking out towards Dartmouth and Colgate. And as I've said before, teachers will need to get in a lottery for these rooms. They are full of sunlight. They are beautiful. They're all beautiful. So you can see here once again in the mock-up where they have all of the sheetrock up. There's a spray that was put on that helps hide the tapes and prevent cracking, and it also makes the painting last longer without cracking. So once again, it was a mock-up to make sure the material is sprayed on properly, make sure they understand how it needs to be applied, and then once that's agreed upon, they will move along. And they're mostly, working their way top down. So right now, the second floor is just about fitted out with sheetrock and taped, and they're going to be starting with the painting and moving forward. This is the lighthouse, and as you can see, they're starting to do work on the interior structure, and this is looking down from what will be the entryway. Right about over where that scissor lift is, there'll be the entryway stairs. So for now, the entryway stairs will go in last. There's stairs at the end of the building, but based on the construction sequencing, those stairs aren't going in. But you're starting to see, the imitation lighthouse, if you will, come together on the interior. So that's really exciting. And I thought I'd show this because, this is an example of, this is the extended learning space out in the hallway. And, thanks to Steve's input and his team and working with others, we had previously thought we were going to do projectors with screens, and that technology is sort of fading into the sunset pretty quickly. And the latest is touchscreen technology. So when Steve came on board, he immediately, started asking questions about this. What could we do? How could we maybe change that? The committee voted last night a small change order of around $30,000. And as you can see, the walls had to be sort of pulled out. In this case, it's recessed, but so I think I don't know if Steve there's like 24 or 28 of these touch screens, both in the classroom and out in the extended learning spaces. And then you can start to see the view here. There's a whiteboard that covers the flat screen, and down below is where lockers will be. So when they want to use the whiteboard, they pull the whiteboard down to the floor level for the students and then cover the lockers. And at the same time, the touch screen is exposed. And when they're not in session and the kids need to get to the lockers, the whiteboard gets moved up. So a real nice design feature that's going to be pretty exciting.
That's awesome, David.
This is probably the least exciting photo, but it's the kitchen. And, it is pretty exciting to the extent that, it's the last concrete pour. It was planned that way by design. A lot of, grease traps, some things that had to be done in the flooring of the school, and some of the final buyout for the kitchen equipment. But once again, we know as a committee, one of the exciting things about this is hot meals and lunches will be made right at this school. They won't be transported to the schools like they are now. And, and then if there's breakfasts or things going on, so really exciting. It'll be a state-of-the-art kitchen.
And just to add to that, David, if I can, from a sustainability part, We included a dish room in this kitchen in our design. That was a big design feature that, I know that was a huge sustainability feature. And so we'll be able to wash dishes here and, not use the polystyrene. And it's a giant step forward for us.
Yep. The next one. So this is in the cafeteria, looking through what will be the stage, and then out into the gymnasium. And while you also see those windows along the back wall, that's what looks out onto the playground. So that's the level where it comes equal to the second floor of the building. So when you exit the building, you'll be on the playground and the recreational fields. But once that's done, that's temporary. There's going to be translucent panels that go in between the windows that will also let in even more light. So once again, a really nice design feature that is going to just open up that area with so much light. If you think about other gymnasiums that might just have a skylight or a cafeteria, it's just going to be full of light, and it's going to be a really nice feature. And then lastly, this is what's called, the storefront. This is part of when you're going to be entering the school. So the circular area where you drop off the students, and the administration offices are behind here. So some of the storefront is going in, and that's pretty exciting as well. And that's all I have.
I always love your updates because it's so exciting to see how it changes just over the matter of like a few weeks.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's moving at lightning speed, and it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to elementary school.
I know.
Great. It's going to be great.
I'll be there for the next 9 years. How exciting is that?
Yeah. And then Sarah, you can maybe, so at last night's meeting, the mosaic we're going to present that. We're planning and looking to have a meeting either on the 7th or the 8th that we can present the mosaic for the first time for the public to see. And that's really exciting that's going on. And Cindy Schieffer's been leading the team with 3 artists, and we have the contract signed, and we authorized payment last night, the first payment on some invoices to the artists. So that's really exciting. And then the final playground landscaping and site design is being finalized. And Katie Martin's been working very closely with the architect and the consultants on that. And we hope to have the final presentation that will be made to the committee so that process can be bought out and finished up.
Wonderful.
So good.
Yeah, very exciting. I can't wait to see that mosaic.
We recognized her at our meeting last night, but I just want to recognize her tonight too. Cindy Schieffer has put a tremendous amount of effort into organizing all the pieces to this mosaic committee, because there are, believe it or not, a lot of moving pieces. So I just want to recognize that.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Cindy Schieffer is always an asset to wherever she's at.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you. So any new business? All right, then we've got one piece of correspondence, and that was in your Dropbox as well. There was a couple of documents with it regarding the bike Marblehead and the pump track, and then some interest in the space over that we have, the land over at Green Street and Beacon. So, I'll be brief because I think everybody probably has heard about this bike group through town. They've had a couple of sort of pieces that have come up. They were trying to get this pump track built. They had been talking with the Conservancy board, but that wasn't working out. So they had approached me a couple of months ago, and I sort of said, okay, we're headed in a budget. Like, this is I'm not really sure how this would work. So there's been quite a few emails that have been traded. We pushed it to the town at one point because there was concern that when we were talking about school property, that it was actually needed to go through the town, because technically our property is through the town, because this would be non-school use of the property. But the town cleared it through town council, and it pushed it back to us saying, go ahead and do this if you want. So I've followed up with Michelle, and I followed up with Pat Milner is heading up this group. And so I explained to Pat that, you know, I was going to present it to the committee tonight just so that everybody's aware, because it is, you know, use of our land. And so then at some point in the very near future, Michelle and probably Todd will work with Pat and hopefully be able to work out a lease. The spots that they're looking at right now, so they are looking at that Green and Beacon property, and then they're also looking at, and this is in the packet, but there's a space of what sounds to be sort of overgrown growth in between the tennis courts at the high school and then the community center. That's where they're looking for this pump track, and then sort of in their larger plans, that's what they're looking for at the Beacon and Green property. So basically, we'd be working out a lease and any liability and with them, and then they have interest in kind of clearing the land and using it for what they want. When I first talked with, he's a neighbor of mine, he had reached out and kind of talked about sort of that, you know, they're raising all the funds and that these are not massive amounts of money. So that, you know, if it's something that gets used for a few years and then it needs to be used for some other reason by the schools, that, you know, that can absolutely be a piece to this. So I'll let, you know, Michelle obviously can work out all of those details as far as leases go, but I did want to bring it forward. In the email, Pat kind of talks a little bit about time schedule that she'd like to see. So I think there's something in April, May, and June. So when I emailed Pat the other day, I said, you know, John and I had discussed it and said that it would be great that as they kind of hit those milestones, if she wanted to come and update the committee on that work and how the whole project is going, that we'd be interested in that. And she was really excited to hear that and very eager to do that with the committee. So I just wanted to put this on everybody's radar. Sarah?
So when you talked to the town, did anybody I'm assuming the town touched base with Maya to find out if there's any liability, even once we do the lease piece, if we're allowed liability wise to do this, or if we need additional riders?
So they talked with town council, I know, and then any liability, and the assumption is that there would be some type of liability pieces going on with this, and that would be on the bike group, this group, to sort of create and then weed that and make sure that it meets standards and push forward.
So they'll need their own liability insurance to cover this,
I would assume.
All right, I just want to make sure that if something were to happen, that this isn't going to be like
absolutely
Maya.
Yep, liability has been discussed the entire time.
Okay, and then any liability during the construction, since it's by volunteers, who wouldn't be insured and bonded?
Okay, yep, we can definitely make sure. And that's, again, this will head to Michelle, because she's our person with all of that, licensure and everything. Okay. So.
And then at one point, I know we talked about possibly putting Beacon Street on the warrant to give back to the town. Did we do that or not?
No, so nothing is on with the town. Megan and I actually had a brief meeting with Jason and Jackie and John, and we're going to work to expand the MOA that we had signed. I believe it was just last school year, and include that, because the town, there's a lot of moving parts with property, with ours, you know, the use of Widger Road, you know, we've kind of talked about all of these pieces at this point, and so really to kind of officially kick that off. You know, we had a correspondence like a couple months ago regarding some property that is right sort of off of the vets area. You know, Jason's got a property that he needs to deal with. So there's mutual interest on both school and town. And so getting a group together with that and kind of, again, memorializing it, that as through the town, we sort of memorialize this financial piece, and we're going to work to expand that, and that'll be brought to the committee, obviously, for approval.
Okay. Then the only other question is, I know that there was an extensive study done on Green Street when we were during the building project, and a portion of it was identified as wetlands. So we just have to make sure that this pump track doesn't impede on any of the wetlands areas.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm pretty sure, Sarah, that they need to go through the internal town approval with whatever needs to get done with that property as well. It's a good point.
Yeah,
But
so
I think,
Jason, we've been working
yeah,
really closely with Jason on all of this,
yeah,
so he's completely in the know. They've
yeah.
been talking with him before they were talking with us, so he was working with them when it was at the conservancy level. So there's been a lot of back and forth on this one.
Yeah, this group has worked really hard. So I just want to make sure that they're aware of the stipulation, like the parameters before they get too far into their plan. They know the areas, they can't go because they've put a lot of effort into this.
Absolutely. Are you unmuted? No.
I think it does call that out specifically in the document that we have that, with their collaborators. I mean, the Marblehead Conservancy is listed there. So I'm assuming that that's all been, that they're working together on that. I guess the only thing that kind of stuck in my little head when you were talking is talking about clearing the land.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that entails? Like, are they actually clearing stuff, like knocking down a bunch, like, is that going to be cleared out?
On Beacon and Green?
Yeah.
I don't. I think that the plans at Beacon and Green are far more in their infancy stages than the pump track stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the way I interpret it. The pump track is overgrown weeds.
Yep.
And the picture that they showed, whereas what they want to do, from what I've heard and seen, is more like trails in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
in the
it's
woods
definitely
on Green
like
Street.
a trail system, not
Trail
like clearing out that area.
Yeah.
Okay, because that I would probably push back on a little bit, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if that's the case, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I thought they did outline for one of the areas needing to clear trees. Maybe minimal, but I thought it was outlined.
I thought it was more like
brush,
fallen trees and stuff of that nature.
And I can absolutely.
Oh, sorry, it does say in here, clearing dead and unsafe trees. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I missed that.
Great.
And then to your question there, Sarah, that property that you're speaking to is identified as 21 Lincoln Ave.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Just because that's where there's access to the property that she mentioned up by Tioga Way. And I will have some more information for the committee on that.
Okay.
And
Great.
hopefully we can discuss that as a committee about what we want to do, because I think Sarah's right. That property, we should put it back to the town so it can be put to better use.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few that I think would be useful. And again, this is this larger conversation with the town around land use. So yeah, we're working on getting that moving along. And yeah, and so this doesn't require, this piece with the Bike Marblehead doesn't require committee approval or anything, particularly at this point, but I obviously wanted to put it on all of our radar and let you guys know that this is has been asked and we're working on it.
Will we need to approve future a lease if it comes to that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Michelle, are you still with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do not believe it would require school committee approval because it will be a rental agreement, but we can double check that for sure.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. So I know we still got a few hands raised. So can I get a motion to add an additional public comment?
So moved. Seconded.
Megan moves, Sarah second. All right, Sarah Gold, yes. David Harris.
Yes.
Sarah Fox.
Yes.
Megan Taylor.
Yep. Yes.
Emily Barron.
Yes.
All right. So I will just again ask people to keep it respectful and keep it brief. And I'm going to start with the list that I had from earlier. So Kelly Salowitz, you're up first.
Hi, Kelly Salowitz, 23 Dover Street. Can you hear me? Okay. I guess I want to start by saying that I totally respect the need to keep these meetings timely, but pushing public comment to the end is pretty unfair. It makes public participation feel less valued. I'd like to speak to the plan that was discussed on Tuesday for the upper grades 7 through 12. These kids have waited so long to get this plan into place. My senior tried, Dan Howell spoke about senior project. My senior has suffered senior project COVID problems and she cannot find a placement. Because of COVID, she wasn't successful and nobody's willing to take an extra person on in their work environment for her in what she was looking for. And now with this plan in place, the district is looking to get kids in school in April, right around the time when senior project is starting. It's incredibly unfair for these kids who aren't doing senior project to be put into the classroom just as their peers are leaving for senior project. With the exception of AP classes, April and May are pretty much months for seniors where little to no learning takes place. These kids have been desperate for peer and adult interaction, and this plan is just too late and too little. There's nothing magical about the start of the next quarter as the perfect time to do this. Please give these seniors just a little more time together before it's too late. As for my middle schooler, his ability to focus on his AHA work and Zoom is dwindling every day. He's lonely. He needs more interaction with his peers and his teachers. He was crushed on Tuesday night after he found out that he wasn't part of the everyday 5-day plan. I'm glad there's a plan falling into the place for the lower grades. My second grader is ecstatic to go back 5 days. I'm disappointed it was pushed off another 2 weeks. I also would like to speak to why can't we make these days longer? It can work. Having children spend 4 hours in the classroom together, go home and have lunch, only get right back on a Zoom with the very same group of people makes no sense. If they can eat snack together in school with no transmission, they can also safely eat lunch at school too. We're 11 months into this, and there's so much we know now that we didn't know in the beginning. The data clearly shows that spread in schools isn't happening. It's happening in our schools, and it isn't happening in other schools that have been going full-time all along. A great disservice has been done to our kids and their well-being by not getting them in the classroom sooner and not yet renegotiating the 6-foot distancing. It's hard to hear infectious disease specialists say 3 feet is more than enough and still be beholden to an agreement that was signed back in the earlier time of this pandemic. The science of this virus is changing and evolving all the time. How we handle the school plan should be too. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I don't see Emily DeWitt's hand raised right now, but I did have Emily as wanting to speak earlier in the meeting. Emily, are you still here? All right, I don't see Emily. If Emily wants to speak, she can absolutely raise her hand again and we'll come back to her. Mary McCarriston, are you still with us and would you still like to speak?
Yes, I would. I'm going to go in a little bit different direction. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's on the school committee, all the administrators and all the teachers. Unlike everybody else, I've had an incredible remote experience. I have an 8-year-old. I'm going to be 65 years old, and she is flourishing. And I understand that other kids are struggling, but I haven't heard over the meetings that you ever get any positive feedback. So I just want to say thank you to her teacher, Mrs. Bergeron. She's done a wonderful job, and Mrs. Clean last year. And I think you guys all deserve some kudos instead of always something negative. And I get it, but I just wanted to say thank you to you all. Okay?
Thank you very much, Mary.
Good night. And
Thank you. All right, Jeff St. George, I have you as next on my list.
Yeah, thanks. And Mary, I appreciate your kudos. I think you're spot on. My comments are not directed at teachers, more at the committee. Guys, I'm very concerned about the recent trend, what appears to be the discouragement of public comment. The chair started this meeting stating that public comment was 15 minutes. I'm not quite sure why. Are we limiting public comment? Are we discouraging public comment? In my opinion, the committee continues to try to limit the public, your constituents, what you want to hear. In several meetings we have heard, we are running late. Please make it quick. We are running out of time. You only have 1 minute. This is not acceptable. You, this committee, are discouraging and prohibiting the public from commenting. Whether you know it or not, people are afraid to speak up. If these meetings are running late, I'm sorry. You need to manage your agenda with the priority on what parents and taxpayers need to express. please stop limiting the Marbleheaders from stating their concerns based on your desire to end the meeting. The town elected you. You chose this. You ran for this. Own it, no matter how many hours it takes. Guys, I'm sorry, but this is what you ran for. Own this and run with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Erin Noonan.
Hi, Erin Noonan, 15 Beverly Ave. I wasn't going to say that, but I'm just because it just came up a couple times. I think I'm going to respectfully disagree about the order of the public comment. I know this is a really difficult situation for public committees in general. It's tough because you put the public comment at the beginning and then people don't, you give a presentation, maybe take a vote, and people don't get a chance to, weigh in on it until, when it's after it's presented. And so I can appreciate that. I can appreciate what you tried to do there, and you guys have a huge, heavy agenda. And I don't have a problem with it, splitting it in the beginning and the end. I actually kind of think it might be, I don't know, I just my opinion, I think it might be a nice way to go, because I think that things come up and I thought it was creative. I don't know, but that wasn't where I was going to say. I was just going to say, I attended the Show Up for Students event tonight outside, and I just wanted to acknowledge and I thought it was wonderful to see school committee members and our superintendent interacting with parents, and it was just nice to see people off Zoom interacting. And I know that those that couldn't do that were busy taking care of preparing for the meeting and setting up the technology and preparing for this meeting. So I just wanted to say that. With regard to pool testing, real quick, I was skeptical of the pool testing after a first initial introduction to it. When you look into it, when you understand that your children will not, it's minimally invasive, children will not be kept out of school unless you individually, your child tests positive after a rapid reflex testing in school. They will not, before they are back into the classroom, they will not, there is minimal interruption in terms of education of our students. And if you are one of the overwhelming majority of parents, myself included, that want these kids back in school, this is the least we can do for the safety of our teachers and staff. It's the least. And if you figure out and you take the time to look into it, it is, as somebody who has done a 180 about this program, I encourage every parent to go on and register their kids for pool testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Scott Solberg.
Thank you. So I just want to say, some of our committee members have been on since 8 this morning. So I do appreciate having the comment at the end. I appreciate the opportunity for the school committee and our principal and Michelle Cresta, you're amazing, to be able to share and provide context before we comment. I think that's really critical, and really appreciate the work that's going on. As a town, this is a crisis we've been in for over a year. We just, as a family, we realized that we had not gone out of our house since last February until this last break. It is a major issue, and we need to appreciate the fact that this is not the school committee's fault, by the way. They did not mandate a pandemic, but we're doing everything the best we can. And I just want to say we're all trying to make this work, and I'm hoping we can continue to keep a positive, constructive conversation about what's going on. I think the pool testing, as we just heard, is a great way to go. I think that the 3-foot distancing is a great opportunity for us to look at. I think we've had a doctor talk about how this goes. I think we need to reevaluate that. But I really believe in our committee. I believe in the fact that we have now more transparency as a community about our economics, about what's happening. And I want to say, John, thank you for being here, because I don't know how we would have gotten through this. Sarah Gold, thank you for being here. Your leadership is phenomenal. And the rest of the committee, thank you. This is a volunteer sport, and you are all putting in an amazing amount of time. And I think we need to both appreciate that and value the fact that we have a community that can get through this. It's so challenging, and recognize we're almost to the point that we're going to celebrate getting our kids back in school, and let's just embrace that. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Alistair Connor.
Thank you. I'm excited about what we have coming for, Alistair Connor, 9 Cloutman's Lane, sorry. I'm excited about what we have coming for K through 6. Although, you know, the homeschoolers have to wait 30 days to get back in, but we'll figure that out. I'm really excited that they'll have more learning time, but I have to reiterate that grades 7 through 12 need more learning time as well. The current new plan does not give those children more learning time, and they need more. The current plan that you have laid out for the next step also is not feasible for a lot of working parents from a lot of comments made on the social media platforms. The 2 different schedules, the switching around between AM and PM is just really complicated, and it doesn't bring more learning time, although more in person, yes. But from what I've seen, the high schoolers need and the middle schoolers need more learning time. Whatever we need for the budget to make that happen, let's fight for it. If it's outdoor learning, if it's more air purifiers, if it is more masks, whatever we need for that to happen. I also am frustrated because we asked many times, what do we need to make streaming happen? And the speed at which we've investigated our tech issues, every year, Mary Mixers they've raised $80,000 easily for the hospital, many years in a row. If $80,000 was what we needed to get the tech system to not be crashing, to have kids be able to zoom into classrooms, to be able to make sure that their classes weren't canceled due to tech crashing when the Wi-Fi, we would have raised that if you had asked. We kept asking, what do you need? We will make it happen. And parents could have done that. And so I'm frustrated to see that 80,000 is the number, because we could have done that. So I appreciate the K through 6, but I am asking you to consider more learning time for grades 7 through 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. Farah Wolfson.
Hi, my name is Farah Wolfson. I'm a middle school teacher, and I want to just acknowledge all the teachers who are still on this call, because for many of us, our day started at 5 or 6, but this is very important to us as well, and our voices need to be heard. As someone said previously about people not necessarily wanting to speak, it doesn't necessarily feel like the safest place to share all of what we feel. I do want to make 2 specific points separate from the school specific ones. One is that this is very difficult for everybody, and we know that. But if we could shift to looking at the resilience of the students as part of the discussion, this is hard. Life is hard. And I hear on this call a lot of people referring to districts that are full-time, and we need to do better. But I know first graders who are learning to read in Revere in full remote, and in Lynn in full remote. And I'm not sure who we're comparing things to. And I would say that for my nephews in IB programs in California and in the state of Washington. So I just want to point out there are just so many voices that aren't being heard tonight that would shed a different perspective from those who were visible outside tonight and those whose voices are being heard. And the last thing I just want to say, I was on a call the other day, and like many calls are beginning with a land acknowledgement, this call began with a COVID acknowledgement, just acknowledging in this pandemic, the number of people on the call who maybe have lost people or are suffering now because of the pandemic. And so while we're asking for more, I think it would be really powerful to acknowledge people in our community and beyond our community who are hurting for more. So I applaud people for standing up what they want and what they believe is possible in this moment, but also if we could keep some perspective, and maybe we can even look at some of that funding to go into service learning that would pay dividends back for our students, help with social emotional pieces, but also just, we have to recognize the resilience of the students who have weathered this very well, in addition to struggling with it. And those struggles are real. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. Amy Whipple.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank the incredible staff members at the Village School, at the middle school and the high school. I have a 9th grader, I have a 7th grader and a 3rd grader. And I do have to say, they are all having very good experiences despite it being this hybrid model. However, we are in almost a year into this pandemic, and I'm frankly just really concerned. Listening to that 7th grader speak up tonight, I mean, what courage did it take a 7th grader to read a letter like that in front of all of the school committee members, teachers, parents, maybe their friends' parents? I mean, hats off to her. And to think that she has to write this letter to just share how difficult this learning experience has been. And I think there's a lot of kids out there like that. They might not quite be significantly impaired where they're in 5 days a week. So they're home, 3 days out of the 2 days a week. And I think it can be really, really hard. And I just don't think that that's always being shared, because people are, they're quiet about the struggles that they go through. And tonight, when it was discussed about the budget, and I'm the first to say that's not my area of expertise, but when it was discussed a $42,000 position for a community liaison, I don't know, I just was thinking to myself, how about using some of this money that we might have to getting these kids back? I mean, these 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th graders, they're struggling. And, I listened to the presentation by Mr. Fox and Mr. Bauer, and obviously they spent hours upon this and trying to figure out a way to get these kids back. And I'm thinking to myself, it's another upheaval for a lot of families who have kids at multiple schools. It's not going to really be a really good working model for those families and for working parents who are out of the home. And I'm thinking to myself, what can we do to get these students back in? I mean, I think there's so many parents out there. If there was a fundraiser tomorrow, they would donate. Is it dividers? What can we do? Because, right now it seems like it's just very slow. And I think a lot of the parents have been really patient with the process after a full year. And also, I just wanted to mention the $10,000 that was set aside for mental health. And I'm sure that there's more that will be set aside, because we know how much that type of cost is going to add up, especially for all these kids that have been home for that long. So I really hope that we start thinking about these middle school and high schoolers, because I think a lot of them are really struggling. And, I'm thinking about my freshman who this week just started freshman football. And I know there's been a lot of talk about sports and the safety of it. He has an energy level now that he hasn't had for the last year, knowing that he can go back. His teammates are excited. His friends are excited. He has purpose now to get up in the morning, except for the 2 mornings a week that he gets up for school. So, I think a lot of, I don't know how many of the school committee members have students in that age group, but they're really struggling. And I just really want to acknowledge all of those high schoolers out there, especially the freshmen where, this is their first year. They don't want to join clubs. They don't want to join activities. I mean, they're brand new. I mean, it's really hard to do all of this over Zoom. So, I just want to, really thank the teachers there, because I know they've been really terrific with the kids. So that's it.
Thank you, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Jody Kerbel.
Hi, I'm Jody Kerbel. I have an 11th grade daughter at the high school. I'm also a teacher at an independent school who's teaching during COVID, and we're hybrid, very different experience. But I thought it was time that maybe I should speak up as well, because this is not that it's been a positive experience for my child, but it has worked for my child. And the schedule she has become accustomed to, I'm fearful that if we change to a new schedule, not only would there be loss of learning time or actually interaction, both Zoom and in person, that it'll disrupt this schedule that she has now become used to and likes. She has gotten a part-time job. She takes herself independently to and from places. And that will all change significantly for her. But my main concern, again, is that change in schedule, if we are sacrificing for the frequency of in-person meetings for less teaching time, that's a concern for me. My daughter's a junior. I want her learning as much as possible. And so for the hybrid model, that has really worked for us. And I really appreciate what other people have said tonight. And also, just to give you perspective, I appreciate what the teachers are doing. I know how hard it is. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Jody. Kate,
Hello, everyone.
can you
I
just
am
state
a
your full
junior-
name?
Sorry?
Can you just state your full name and address, please?
Kate Simcoe, Garfield Street.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, tonight for being here, and to the teachers also. I know it's really hard at the moment to teach us all. I'm a junior in high school. I know that the pandemic has been really tough for everyone, and especially as a learner at the high school. I am thrilled that the K through 6 students are going to be able to go back. I actually attended the Peaceful Pro School rally tonight, and that was awesome to see everyone out there. I just really wanted to emphasize the fact that I really, really, really appreciate it if you guys could please explore the 3 feet option for us to go back to school. I really missed seeing just seeing friends and teachers in person. Just I can't explain how awesome it would be to if we could go back 5 mornings a week. The science has shown that, as a doctor Bernadetto was saying, that 3 to 6 feet is basically the same. And I just really wanted to please ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. I think that that is the perfect way to end tonight's public comment. I really appreciate you raising your hand and speaking with us. I think we had, our 7th grade student, Megan Eaton, and now to finish with Kate Simcoe is just an excellent sort of bookends to this meeting.
Sorry, not to disrupt that great ending, because it was, but I know it's not, normal practice for us to say something, but it was actually my suggestion to split public comment tonight. So I really don't want the whole committee to take the hit for that. So I apologize. In all honesty, the only reason I made the suggestion was because we actually got quite a bit of positive feedback about it. And when I looked at the agenda, I could see that the votes really were pretty mundane, and that I knew John had a number of updates, especially around pool testing and the K through 6 return, that I wanted to make sure the public had a chance to hear so that they could factor that into their public comment. So I apologize if that did not work out the way everybody hoped, and I just don't want the whole committee to take the hit for that. So I apologize.
Thanks, Megan. All right, so that brings us to the end of our agenda, and so I will adjourn us at 9:22. Thank you, everyone.